I had nowhere to go. I had no family. I had no friends of the family. So that's when I got sent to a group home, PHH, Presbyterian Hospitality House. That was probably one of the worst experiences of my life. It was horrible. I mean, physically, someone stabbed me with a fork. Someone bit my finger and tore this, like most of my finger off. And school was very difficult. Right now, my goal is to not stay in Alaska, go to college out of state. I want to get a major in pre-law criminal sciences and then hopefully take my way to law school.
Although I'm all grown up, it's taken a lot of work to get to the point that they are not in the forefront of my mind. I honestly think that I will always have a part of me like this, the anxiety and the stress a parent would have, our parents should have had, but instead it was me. Majority of my siblings are about to be adopted. I need to know that they get to still be my siblings. I want them to know that they still have me, a sister, not a stranger, not a friend, but as a sister.
Welcome to the East Anchorage Book Club. I'm your host, Andrew Gray. The purpose of this podcast is to tell the stories of Alaskans of interest and importance. Today we have two guests, Landen Ryan, who is a senior at Service High School in Anchorage, and Madison Brewer, who is a sophomore at the University of Alaska, Anchorage. Both Landen and Madison have had experience in the foster system. This interview happened while they were in Juneau with the nonprofit organization facing foster care in Alaska. Madison will reference my House Bill 157, which would allow siblings to remain legal siblings even after adoption into different households. This podcast episode contains references to physical abuse and violence. Landen Ryan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for welcoming me.
So tell me a little bit about your early life.
My early life, I guess I can start from the beginning. The closest I can remember is when I was 7 years old is when I first went into foster care. I went to Cedar Park Elementary in Anchorage. It's on South Side, Huffman area.
I mean, you were born in Anchorage?
Oh, yes, I was. I was Anchorage, Alaska, I think I was born at Providence.
So 7 years old, you went into the system, and you remember that?
It was a very long day. I remember my teacher telling me that I needed to stay longer after class, and so I played some computer game.
You were the second grade or?
First grade.
First grade.
First grade.
Okay, so you were in first grade. Your teacher said you were going to stay after school and stay and like play some games.
Yeah, I was playing like a math game or something. And then next thing I remember is that the police were there. My mom was there with a blanket. My grandma was there. And then they picked up my brother he went to Huffman Elementary School. And so they picked up my brother from Huffman. And next thing I knew, I was sleeping on a floor at a random house. Yeah.
Was your brother older or younger?
He's 2 years older than me.
And was he with you when you went to that
He was
house?
placed with me. So our first placement was with our great aunt, our great uncle, who did end up adopting us. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. Well, actually, fortunately, it didn't work out. But yes, we were placed together initially, which is really good. But they had two separate houses. And so we were separated the second we went into their home. My brother went with my uncle and I went with my aunt. And also, unfortunately, my brother was put through a lot of physical abuse. And my aunt was minor on the physical abuse, but she had a lot of mental abuse too that she would put us through. But
were there other kids in the house besides you?
No. My aunt and my uncle, they never had any kids together.
Got it. And were they divorced? And is that why you and your brother were separated?
No, actually. So they were married 40 years. They found it better that they didn't live together. And so they lived about a mile away from each other. She lived in this really nice neighborhood and he lived in this mildly sketchy neighborhood. It was edge of Muldoon near like Cars area. No, but they were married. They only got divorced after they got their rights terminated from us, from what I hear.
So how long were you with your aunt before you went back into the OCS?
Well, they adopted us when I was 9 or 10. My brother was like 12, 13 area. 9 or 10. And then we only lived them for like 7 months. And then she kicked me out when I turned 11.
She kicked you out of the house when you were 11?
Yes.
Why?
She said I had anger management problems and I threw a lot of tantrums. But I come to realize now it's because of the abuse. She would take me to North Star and like treatment facilities and she'd be like, put my kid in here. But all of them determined that I did not meet the criteria to be there.
Do you remember your stays at North Star?
I never officially stayed at North Star, thankfully. But my brother did spend some time there. He spent like 4 months there. I remember going in there. They would make us take off our shoes and they would give us lunch tickets and we'd go sit with him during lunch. And I just remember like, I could feel it. I was so young, but I could still feel like how toxic the environment was there. And my brother, he was so traumatized from North Star. It was it was so hard seeing him transition out of North Star because of how abusive my uncle was.
Your great aunt kicked you out when you were 11.
Yes.
Then what happened?
When she kicked me out, I went to go move in with my great-grandmother for mom. And during that time, my great-grandmother, she wasn't mobile. She was about 85, 86. And she didn't have enough money to afford care. She only had enough money to afford daycare. So this was also during COVID. So I would spend nights taking care of my grandmother. I would stay upstairs and she would call me when she used the restroom. And then I would spend my daytime sleeping. And then it would just be repeat until OCS intervened. And they took me away when I came home from school one day. That was when we were coming back in 7th grade from COVID. And yeah, they took me away and they placed me into a family. And then that family, I jumped homes and then I went to another family and I stayed with them for 2 years. They did not like my relationship with my grandma. And then she died while I was under their care, unfortunately.
So was your grandmother like your person?
At the time, she was the only person I had left. My mom was not in the picture. My dad, I don't even know. And my other grandma was so focused on my brother Riley that I kind of got left out of everything. So my grandma Nona she was my rock. But we had a really close relationship. She taught me how to cook. She taught me so many things because she couldn't do it herself. So I would cook dinner for her. And at that young age, it was just like, I didn't realize how meaningful it was to me until now, when it's been a few years since she passed away.
So they didn't let you see her. Did you end up staying with that family for a long time?
I went with them beginning of 8th grade, and I stayed with them for about 2 years until my freshman year of high school. And it just didn't work out. And there was no placement option for me. So that's when I got sent to a group home, PHH, Presbyterian Hospitality House. That was probably one of the worst experiences of my life. It was horrible. They told me I was going to be there for 2-3 months max until they found placements. And I was there for almost a year.
Well, I am not familiar with group homes and how often they're used and under what circumstances. Do you know?
So I know OCS contracts like companies to do their group homing for them because group homes are very frowned upon within like foster care as a whole. And my group home specifically is the one I know more about and some side ones, but mine specifically was Presbyterian Hospitality House. It was a therapeutic group home, and they also run therapeutic foster homes. And it's not specifically just for foster kids. It's for kids who are going through issues, kids getting out of McLaughlin. Some probation officers do it, some parents.
For folks who don't know, McLaughlin is our juvenile justice center for like kids who commit crimes would go through.
Yes.
McLaughlin. And therapeutic foster homes is really for kids who are like extraordinary behavior difficulties, mental health issues. And if it were a therapeutic foster home, that foster parent would be paid more.
Yes.
And so you were at a therapeutic group home, not
correct.
specifically foster, but I'm assuming it was for people with behavioral problems, mental health issues.
It was. And that probably added a lot to my horrible experience there. It was just like all these messed up kids. And then there's this little...
And they thought you met the criteria for a therapeutic group home?
Not necessarily. So the reason PHH even got brought up in the first place is because when my brother got out of McLaughlin Juvenile Detention Center the first time, he was placed in a PHH. He was placed into a short-term home. They called it Dawn Lake. It's out in Big Lake, Alaska. And it worked for him, apparently, and so they thought it would be a good place for me to go. I did not meet the criteria. My GAL recommended it. Guardian ad litem. I hadn't even met my guardian ad litem. She'd been my guardian ad litem at that point for about 4 years, and I hadn't even met her once.
You hadn't met her, and she recommended that you go to this group home?
Yes. And my lawyer was against it. My caseworker put me in there, and then I called her my first day, and I was like, her name was Adrienne Beans. I was like, I need to get out of here, and I didn't, and she didn't come to visit me at all the whole time.
Tell us about what life was like inside the group home.
Initially, it was pretty hard because I got really attached to my previous family. He was a teacher at East Anchorage High School, which is where I went for my freshman year, and I had him as a teacher. So not only was he like a father figure, but he was also like my teacher. I was in JROTC. He was my JROTC teacher. And the foster mom there, I grew very attached to her. So transitioning into PHH was very difficult.
I want to pause right there because I made some assumptions that it hadn't worked out very well with them because, they hadn't allowed you to have contact with your grandmother. But it wasn't necessarily that you didn't like that foster placement. You disagreed with that decision, but you got along with them otherwise.
Yes. Actually, I would say yes. I would say a lot of my feelings towards the situation where I was mad about my grandmother, a lot of it was they didn't like my ideals of life. They had their own son and they didn't like that. A example was a lot of his friends were my friends because we were both in JROTC and he didn't like that we had the same friends. He didn't like that I hang out with. It caused a lot of drama in the home because he didn't like me very much. Their kid.
Yeah.
They had their own kid. And he didn't like me very much, and it caused a lot of drama. And I was a freshman. I was getting into trouble at school, and I just didn't fit into their family. And
So they asked for the removal.
they asked for their removal. And they were told initially that I was going to a therapeutic foster home, which
Would have been different.
it would have been different because PJ just separated into two different levels. It's 1, 2, 3. 3 is therapeutic group home, 2 is therapeutic foster home, and 1 is just transitioning out of therapeutic foster care back to normal foster.
So really a therapeutic group home would be for someone where they just felt like there was no way this child could exist in a foster home.
I suppose so, yes. Yes. Or it was just a placement method because I did meet a few kids in there and I was just like, there's no way these kids belong here. But they were, and unfortunately.
Yeah. So now back to the way it was. Like, what was the worst part about it?
Mentally dealing with the fact that I had nowhere to go after. I knew that my time there was going to run out. And as much as I hated it there, I had nowhere to go. I had no family. I had no friends of the family. I mean, OCS initially put me there because they were out of placements anyways. Physically, someone stabbed me with a fork. Someone bit my finger and tore this, like most of my finger off. I was punched. I did some punching, realistically. And school was very difficult because there's no technology allowed in the house. And that made school very hard because a lot of schools nowadays, it's really technology focused. And so I had to find time to manage to do my schoolwork at school while managing my 8 classes I was taking, 4 of which were AP classes. So it was just like triple the amount of work, and it was very difficult.
Were you at East High School?
So East High School freshman year, and then after I got into the group home, I was out in the valley, Wasilla, Alaska, and so I went to Colony High School.
Got it.
Yes.
And then where did you go after that group home?
My dad, he passed all of his drug tests, and it was an interesting situation. So technically, I'm not allowed to live with him, and because it would be a family placement. But technically, since his rights got relinquished, he was not my family. So they put him as emergency placement, and because I had to leave PHH because the program was over. And so after I was placed with my dad, there was a lot of confusion. My caseworker was just like, okay, you're going to stay here. This is how it's going to be. She didn't even come to pick me up. My dad had picked me up from the group home. And yeah, I went with my dad.
How did that work out?
After I went with him, this is a few months after his mom died, and he was taking it very hard. And of course, that's no excuse. But he did start using fentanyl again and heroin. And so I stayed there for about 10 months, and I endured it for I didn't really notice it for 3 months, and then I endured it for another 7. But
Endured it like him sleeping all the time, not having food in the house, not being present?
it wasn't necessarily like that. He would be gone for days. There was one point I got into a major car accident, and I really hurt my knee. And he didn't like me talking to my mom at the time. And I'm still in contact with my mom, and we have a decently healthy relationship. But he didn't like me being in contact with my mom. And then after the car accident, he wasn't picking up his phone. So I called my mom. I was like, hey, pick me up. She rushed over. And my dad beat my face in when I got home.
For calling your mom?
For, having my mom pick me up. And this is after my knee. And it's just it was horrible. And then I left. I left for about a week. And I went to my ex-placement, Cheyenne's house. And I stayed there for about a week. And my dad was like, I'll try to do better. And so I was like, okay, we'll try this out. And then the extensive uses of drugs just got so worse. And so I called my caseworker. I didn't tell her about his drug usage. I was like, I just need to leave. And she was like, okay, we'll come pick you up this weekend. We'll place you with Cheyenne because she was willing to take me in.
Who is Cheyenne?
Cheyenne is my mom's best friend's little sister. I mean, she's about 30 years old. She re-entered my life after I got out of the group home, and because of my mom, because she didn't realize I was struggling. And she used to babysit me when I was a baby. She was a family friend, and she had my back at the time. She saved me from my dad, which I'm very fortunate for.
And are you still with Cheyenne?
No, after I was placed with Cheyenne, my brother got out of jail for the third time, and he was in DJJ McLaughlin for about 2.5 years for arson. He had nowhere to go, so he stayed at her house, and my mom was staying at her house, which I was against the law. Um, and so they was like that for a few months, and then my brother and my mom left because I was like, "You need to leave. This is me at jeopardy." And then Cheyenne just she couldn't take it anymore. She said that my presence in her life was too much, and so she called my caseworker. My last day of school, my last day of junior year, she called my caseworker, and she was like, "I want this kid out." And that's what happened. And my caseworker didn't even tell me. My IL, my independent living specialist, she's the one who contacted me about this. My caseworker didn't tell me till the day of, which was very unfortunate, and neither did Cheyenne. So I had no idea there was a problem going on. And we're not in contact anymore.
So where are you now?
Well, after Cheyenne had kicked me out, I went on vacation with my friend for about a month. And Amanda,
Mativier.
yeah, Amanda Mativier, she made a post about me on Facing Foster Care Alaska Facebook. And it was 17-year-old looking for a place, some information about me, and this really nice couple.
I think I saw that.
You think you saw that?
I did see that.
It was like interested in military. I'm not anymore. It was like track runner. It was just all this stuff about me. And my foster mom, she had this foster kid before me, and he was still there when I was there for about a month.
Mm-hmm.
He was probably like, he belonged in the group home, is what I'm going to say. He was demented. He was horrible. He gave her a lot of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And my foster dad, he's in the military. And so he was deployed during most of his time there. And so he gave her a lot of trauma. And so she was very hesitant to reach out because all she does is scroll, because she was on there because she was looking for help with like how to deal with kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then she found my profile, and she said that out of like all the profiles, she saw mine, and she was like, this kid's interesting. And so when I got back from vacation, she wanted to do an interview. And so we met up at a local restaurant, Gallows, and we did an interview, and I brought my mom with me, which might have been a mistake, but I guess it worked out. And I've been there since last July. July 1st was my first day there.
And you're at Service High now?
I've been at Service High since I went to my dad's house my sophomore year.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yes.
And you're in your senior year.
I'm in my senior year. Yes.
Yeah. How's it going?
Now that my problem is not finding a placement or dealing with all my family drama, it's going good. My foster parents have been really supportive about my goals and my dreams, and they want to help me with college. I'm not going to lie, I've been a little difficult because like I've never had this stability and support before. So it's a little interesting to take in.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, we're here to help you. Just let us know. And I'm like, I will, but like, I don't know what I need help with, you know?
I know that like the profile said that you were interested in the military and your foster dad is military.
I think that was one of the leading causes. Initially, actually, he didn't want me in the home because their other foster kid was just like too much. But he met me and he was like, oh, okay, let's do it.
But I mean, is he disappointed that you're no longer interested in the military?
Yes and no. I would say more no than yes. I would say initially when I came into the home, he was like, okay, let's get this kid to a recruiter. Let's get him knowing what he's going into. But I think after being with them for a little while, I realized that I only chose the military as an option because I thought I had no future. And I think after being with them, I'm like, maybe I do have a future. And so I expressed that to them, and he made me get a pros and cons list because he's like, okay, if you're doing this, then we have to make the right decision. And he agreed with me. And now he's just helping me focus on my college career.
Well, what do you want to do in college?
Right now, my goal is to not stay in Alaska, go to college out of state. I'm not super aware where yet, but I've applied to a bunch of colleges on the East West Coast. I want to be on an ocean, but I want to study pre-law or criminal sciences. I want to get a major in pre-law or criminal sciences and then hopefully take my way to law school. They have expressed that they might want to adopt me, which would be good for me, but that's not the only reason I'm doing it. But it would be good because they have the GI Bill. And so we've talked about it, and they said that we would most likely use the GI Bill for law school instead of my undergraduates.
And how is your brother doing?
I haven't talked to my brother since I went to this foster home because there's no relationship right now there. I hope to be able to rekindle it in the future, but a lot of my life I've been focused on everybody else, and I think it's about time I focused on me. And this is the perfect setting because, again, my foster parents are so supportive of my everything.
And if you were to tell something to listeners, something that you wish that people understood.
I feel like everybody has this image in their mind of how hard being a foster kid is. And then I just want the listeners to like times that by 1,000 because all foster kids, they have dreams and goals, they have things they want to do with their life. And there's so many more obstacles that we have to hover, and we do it. We try, we do it. I have so many friends in colleges who are in foster care, and I'm just so proud of them. And they've overcome so many obstacles just being a foster kid. And I don't think people understand how difficult it is to have nobody and only have yourself and still do such amazing things that even people with families don't do.
Yeah.
Like, I know so many kids that just didn't go to college. They're staying here and they're working minimum wage, which is perfectly fine if that's their goal. But I also know so many foster kids who have done so much with their lives and they have nothing to lean on to, which is just, I feel like it's so vital that people realize that we are what we lean on, and we lean on each other in FFCA, which is also another important thing. Well, Landen, thank you so much for being on the show today. Of course. Good job. Thank you. It was really nice meeting with you, Rosa. Great. You ready, Madison? Madison Brewer, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about your early life.
So I was born in Arizona, but spent the majority of my earlier childhood in Utah. I grew up as the second oldest of what ended up becoming 8 kids. I had a very interesting childhood because my dad, when he was younger, he had an accident and fell off of a mountain and has like back issues and all these things. And it wasn't until I was about 5 years old that they found out that he actually had extensive brain damage. And because of that, he was schizophrenic and bipolar and like practically everything under the sun. So it was a very interesting childhood because I got to see the good, I guess, that was there, but it was like there was cracks and you could kind of see, and it wasn't until I was about like 10-ish that it really started to show how unsafe and how bad of a house it ended up being.
So you were 10 in Utah and things got bad.
Yeah. When I was about like 7 is when I had started to become very parentified, started taking care of my baby sister, putting her to sleep every night. And like it was kind of weird. My dad started to call me like the third parent, and I like wore that as like a badge of honor, not really knowing how unhealthy and I'll say abusive that was.
Where was your mom?
My mom and my dad have been together for years now, or they had at the time. My parents ended up finally getting a divorce after 17 years of marriage. My dad and my mom got married. My mom was just barely turning 18, kind of forced a little bit because both sides of my family are Mormon. So there's a religious background and kind of just wanted her to get married. But there was a lot of abuse that came only to her. So she went from one abusive household to another, but they didn't know actually how truly, I'll say, unsafe and crazy her life ended up becoming because of what was happening. My mom was heavily abused, and yet even as me growing up, it was hidden, but there was definitely times where you could tell. With me, I didn't really end up getting necessarily abused, but my dad had one kid in specific, just my older brother, that he would take all his anger out on. My mom protected us to her best ability. So when I was 9 or 10, my parents, right before that, had 4 kids who were in our neighborhood that they almost adopted, and ended up not working out because their families wanted them, so they sent them back to Argentina and Chile. But I'd say like that was when it kind of got bad, after my parents moved us from Orem, Utah to Richmond, Utah. And we lived there for probably just the summer. We got there like June-ish. I had just started school, and my dad just decided we were going to go move to Montana. And as we were going up there, my mom, she went to go see her sister, and I can't remember exactly what had happened, but my mom and her sister refused to let her have my dad. And it wasn't until later that what I had found out is that he was going actively crazy. Like, we only lived there for 4 months, but it was one of the happier parts of my childhood, not being able to have to deal with my dad anymore. Because when he did go crazy, there was a night that my parents went to talk about like child support and everything. And the place in Montana that we lived was already kind of rural, but he went and took her to a restaurant that was even farther, kind of in the middle of nowhere. And I wasn't there, but all I know is that he hit her in the face while he was driving, and he kicked her out of the car and had her pretty much walk. And it was only by like the grace of God that my mom grew up in that town that we were at, and her brother's friend picked her up, and she called our cousin who was watching us. And yeah, that was kind of the biggest time. It got crazy to the point that when she was on the phone with him later, he started to say that he was going to be like the new Messiah, stuff like that. Like, it was pretty bad. And I was going to think that we were going to start a life without him. And eventually he roped her back in, had us go back, move in the same house in Utah. And yeah, it was...
Well, when did you end up removed from the home?
First time we got taken out was in Utah, actually. He got crazy enough to start drawing Bible stuff on the wall. Like, right before they ended up taking him, I was taking my siblings at the time. There was only 6 of us down the stairs as my parents were yelling, and my dad had just like thrown her onto a granite countertop.
Your mom?
My mom's head. And for years, I would have to hear that crack and like wake up in the middle of the night from that. But finally, my mom's sister got us to get into care there. We were there for 5 months, and we did end up getting back out. And then after a couple months of like living with my dad and my mom together, the separation happened again. It was kind of crazy. It was like a back and forth all the time. And then somehow a couple months later, my dad got it. My mom roped back in and decided just on a random like Tuesday that we were gonna move to Alaska.
How old were you when you moved to Alaska?
I was 11, almost 12. We moved to Wasilla, and I lived there for 6 years. He started taking his meds again, and like it kind of was normal, but it really wasn't. Like, in my head, it was normal, but it was like my dad had a weird thing where I was a target of a lot of his stuff. Like, my brother was the target of the anger, but for me, like, the Mormon church kind of teaches women are less than. And you could definitely tell the way that he would treat me. He would say things like, I would try to get all of the kids to do their chores, and it got to the point where I was the only person. And that was me when I was younger. Once we got to Alaska, I was the only person cleaning, and I would get in trouble for pretty much anything and everything you could think of. Like, me even just like making a joke at him. One time I made a joke. I'm not 100% sure exactly what it was, but my dad's very narcissistic. So anything that would he take as an attack on him. Like, I would get in trouble, and I got in trouble multiple times to the point of it being like for months and months and months. And that's what I was known for, is that I would be okay, and then all of a sudden I wouldn't be able to see my friends.
And did the system get involved in Alaska? OCS?
OCS did initially, like 2 years in, and they came and they saw our house, and they didn't really do anything about it. Earlier, I think it was Amanda that we were talking about it with, where I guess like kids who are like of color, I guess, being taken.
Oh, because you were white, they weren't going to intervene.
Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. They give white people, I guess, more of leniency.
And I was curious if you think that had you guys stayed in Utah, where there was the history of the interventions of you guys being taken away, that maybe they would have seen that history more clearly and you guys would have been removed sooner. But because there were, this huge geographic change and OCS maybe not having access to all that history, that they probably gave extra chances.
So there's a lot that ended up happening. I'll say when I was 13, I had a major thing happen in my life, and I had an ABM rupture and stroke that happened. And that
Material venous malformation.
Yes.
So like the problem with like the way your blood flows in your brain.
Yes. And because of that is why my parents got a divorce, because as soon as I had gotten home from the hospital, the first thing my dad said was, okay, when are you going to clean the house? And I hope you know that what happened to me was 10 times worse. And I had my grandparents there, and my mom was there, and I didn't care, and I just started to scream at him. And I was like, I just had the worst thing that has ever happened in my life. My life changed completely after this happening, and thank God my mom finally decided to do it. As like the nail in the coffin for him to not be in our lives. Like, he was still kind of, my mom would still take my siblings to go see him and stuff, but like that, they were getting a divorce for sure after that, because he would get jealous that happened to me, and I was never going to be safe. And I already had where I was the third parent. Like, I took my dad's responsibilities as a parent. So like, it's like a running gag with me and my brothers where it's like, oh, I was your dad, because I took his responsibilities. But I was put in foster care 2 years after that. So after me having my stroke, I wasn't put back in school. For a year, I was the only one that was at the house by ourselves.
And it was just your mom and the kids?
Yes. So it was me and all of my siblings, so all 8 of us. And it got to the point where then my dad got weird and refused to
So even
let
though they
my
were
siblings.
divorced, he was still there?
Yeah, he still held a lot of power. He wouldn't allow us to be put back in school. So then for me, 3 years, for my siblings, 2.5 of pure isolation pretty much, because then COVID happened. And then I would still go see my friends and stuff. And my friends' parents would ask how things were going. And I would just say like, oh, I'm being homeschooled, stuff like that. Because I just couldn't.
Were you being homeschooled?
No, we did not get any schooling whatsoever.
What did y'all do all day?
For me, I would go on a lot of walks and watch shows. And right after of me having my stroke, like, I think that was until I was put in foster care. And even those 2 years that I was in foster care until I was about 18, I was the most depressed I had ever been in my entire life. It was so hard. It was so hard. And it got to the point where when I was finally 16, I had told my mom 2 weeks before we were put in foster care that I said, please put us in foster care. Because at that point, it was just my mom. But my mom just didn't care anymore. The house was absolutely disgusting. And I was the only person that would try to keep things clean. And a house of 9 other people, and I'm the second oldest, so majority of my siblings were way younger than me. Like, she wouldn't give me the power to be able to, like, dictate things, or, like, you know, she was like, I need to be the mom. You can't do it.
Do you think your mom had mental health issues as well?
Oh, yeah. At that point, yeah. It got to a point where she started to do something to try and become a paralegal. And then after that, she just had me and my little brother every 6 hours, like, switch on who's taking care of the girls. Because my siblings range from, like, now it's 19 to 6.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
20.
Or my younger siblings. I have an older brother, but, like, he's kind of irrelevant in the whole situation. But so it was my little older brother. He's like a year and a half younger than I was. And at the time they just found out that he was type 1 diabetic, and she still, like, the only thing that I realized is, like, when I had my medical thing happen and then 2 years later my brother had it, like, she got off, I think, by us having medical problems. Like, whatever that thing is that parents have where it's like they love the attention of that. Like, I think a lot of it had to do with that.
Munchausen's by proxy is a medical diagnosis for parents who, like, want their kids to be sick.
Yeah. Like, we would go to, like, a grocery store and she would just start talking with random people and then just be like, oh, my daughter, she had a stroke. She's doing amazing. And I would be like, why are you talking about this? You know, and so then she would talk about my brother when we would be out, which would be so rarely. And I would try, like, it got to the point where, like, hitting started happening, but it was because I would start to get upset because I would be like, this is not normal. Your household is not normal. It is not normal that we are not in school. It's not normal that you are not parenting. It's unhealthy, and, like, gave all these things, and she just got so mad to the point that she would, like, try to hit me. And then it would get to the point that I would just be like, I'm not going to deal with this. And I probably should have been the person to call, but I was just kind of running on trying to keep
Everyone
the household together.
Do you have resentment against the system for not intervening sooner and doing something?
Yeah. Because honestly, the reason why I didn't is because the first time that OCS came and didn't do anything. And I do know that when we first got put into care, it was someone that they were training. And she had said that we should be taken. And the caseworker said no. So then we were forced to live the way that we did for another 4 years after that.
The homeschooling and the isolation that was happening, I mean, that was preventing you guys from being reported to OCS.
Yeah. And it was, like, people knew, but I don't think anybody really realized how bad it was. And
I shouldn't say she was quote unquote homeschooling. There wasn't any
homeschooling. So what had finally happened is that I was the one taken out of the situation. And I think that's the only reason why it even happened, because my friend's parents, who are now my foster parents, asked me to go on a vacation with them. So I did. And my mom decided, like, sporadically, right before I was about to leave, that she was going to go meet this man in the Dominican Republic. And so then she left, like, 3 days before I did. And we had somebody who came and was taking care of my siblings. And she was supposed to come back a week before I got home. And so I was like, okay, it's fine. I was still really, really nervous about it, but I was like, I need a break. At that point, I had been the only person, like, taking care of the household, but me leaving
and going on the vacation with your best friend's parents.
Yes, was finally what it needed to happen. I just really, really, really did not want that to happen.
Did they recognize that you shouldn't go back to your house?
No. What had happened is that I got a call, and it was so oddly placed. I had just realized, it was the first time in my whole life, like 16 years, me ever realizing how much I loved my siblings and how much I needed them and how much I cared. And even though I've had to be their parent, do all these things, like I only had 2 more years where I could live with them before I was an adult. And it was like, okay, I have the time. And I was literally writing about it in my journal. And I answer a phone call from my mom, and she says, hey, oh, I should have prefaced this. She was supposed to come back a week before I got back. She did not. She extended that stay
In the Dominican Republic.
So then I get the call, and she says, hey, the kids are in care. And
Where were you?
I was in Florida at
On
the time,
vacation.
on vacation. And so I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, the kids are in care. And I just hung up. And I cried alone in our hotel room for hours. And I went and told my best friends that were in a room across from me. And I was so terrified to tell my what ended up being my foster parents. And they were really supportive and said they would take me. But I didn't,
You didn't want to leave your
I didn't
siblings
want to leave
behind.
my siblings. My foster mom has a rule where she's kind of weird when it comes to like boys. So what ended up happening is that they took the 4 girls and the 4 boys were placed at a different house. And I was finally put in school, and it was really hard.
Because you've been out of school for a long time.
A long time, yes.
Years.
At that point, it was supposed to be the beginning of my junior year, and I had no credits. So
Because you hadn't been to high school at all.
no. Because of hard work, I did graduate on time. So in what would be like less than 2 years of schooling, I graduated on time.
So you did all of your high school in 2 years, basically.
Yeah. Because I went to an ABLE program in the Valley and was finally able to start my life, but I didn't realize that the whole reason why I was like so depressed, it was being in foster care. It was being separate and separated from my siblings. And I didn't realize at the time, like I had a therapist and she would constantly be like, Madison, the only thing that you feel is anger and sadness. And I was like, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. But it wasn't until I finally like got to go live alone that I finally realized that that's exactly what it was. I was so angry because my mom proved to us when I was in Utah that they could get us back. They got us back. Like in Utah, they had literally used my parents as an example because it's so rare to get your kids back. If you're put in foster care in Utah, you know that it's bad. And so they used my parents as a example to parents being able to get their kids back. And now
Like, if you could do as good as these parents, then you can get your kids back.
yeah. And it was like, so I don't even know if they still use that, but sometimes I still think about that and it just pisses me off.
Well, where are you now, and how's it going?
It's finally going good. I finally got to realize that it's okay. I would judge myself a lot because I didn't get to protect my siblings and I didn't get to have all of them together. And I was still constantly worried about them. And so, like, it was holding me back from being able to, I guess, enjoy my life. And I was talking with my little brother, and he was like, Madison, I want you to know that, like, his foster parents and my foster parents, and now my little sister's foster parents are all amazing. And he was just like, you know, you can let us go. Like, you are, like, you did so much. You did the best you could. And this is where we need to be. And it's okay. You don't need to worry about us anymore. And I went home and cried because I couldn't cry in front of him, but he was right. And I don't spend as much time as I would want to see them, but it's because I'm finally living my own life. And I have my own friends. And like my freshman year, college was a little hard because now I'm alone in the world as a foster kid and don't have my siblings or my foster parents.
Did you love being in the dormitory?
Yes, and I'm still living there, and I absolutely love it. But the freshman year was a little hard. But as I started to really grow and realize that it's okay to let them go, that I don't have to be there all the time. I used to go see them probably 3 or 4 times a month. But now it'll be a couple months before I get to see them. But it's just because I'm finally able to live my life and I know that they're safe, and it's like I can still be like in a more normal situation as a sister. So the House Bill 157, that's why yesterday I had such a reaction to that, because I had always been an older sister. That was my life, and now
I guess to explain for listeners, so the way it works in Alaska is if kids go into foster care and your siblings get adopted by a family that you're not adopted by, then you guys become legal strangers. You're no longer siblings by law.
Yes. And so 5 of the 8 of us are being adopted into 3 different homes. I've had a really hard conversation with my 14-year-old sister who lives isolated from all of us for her best interest, but still it's heartbreaking for her. I wasn't going to talk to her about it, but she brought it up to me, and my sister does not cry. She is not an emotional girl. She's very strong. She's very powerful. So to see her have the reaction that she had, talking about exactly what House Bill 157 would help us do so that we could still be siblings, because she said, I know that we would still be blood siblings, but I already don't live with any of you guys, and we don't really get to see our brothers very much. And she is so terrified that if she gets adopted, that our relationships are just going to be completely
Untied.
Yeah. Because growing up in a big family, it's your identity, it's like
having a lot of brothers and sisters is who you are.
Yeah, and to get that taken away, like all of a sudden you are legally no longer siblings. Like legal is way more serious, in my opinion, than blood. Because yes, we will always still be blood. No one's questioning that. It's that legally we are nothing. And that's what she said too. We're nothing. That means we're nothing. That whole time of us growing up together and dealing and living the experiences that we've lived to just nothing. So that's why yesterday I
was emotional.
Yeah, very emotional.
Hey, I'll just play your testimony from yesterday.
Hi, I'm Madison Brewer from Anchorage, and I'm in support of House Bill 157. For majority of my life, what defined me and my life was being an older sister. As the second oldest of 8, I've always had a lot of responsibility on my shoulders, although it wasn't always too bad. They followed in line like little ducklings, always safe as long as they followed behind me, but I did also take the brunt of the work for my younger siblings so that this functional household could run. And as things that run partially broke in, it's only a matter of time before it's unrepairable. It's crazy how childhood magic can change a negative situation to a positive one, especially when they have a sister who learns early how to distract and protect them the best that she could from the monster lurking in the dark. And although I'm all grown up and off living in my own life, it's taken a lot of work to get to the point that they are not in the forefront of my mind. Living so long, living that way, I honestly think that I will always have a part of me like this, the anxiety and the stress a parent would have, our parents should have had, but instead it was me. Now I have 5 of my siblings split up between 3 homes soon to be adopted. Everything's safe and comfortable. I wasn't going to talk about my feelings with any of my siblings, but my sister came to my house and started bawling and realizing it wasn't just me. This is my sister who lives at a home alone, and it was awful because there wasn't a thing that I could do. I could comfort her, yes, but how do I say it'll be fine when she's already isolated from all of us? All of my little siblings range from 19 to 6. My siblings need to know me. The majority of my siblings are about to be adopted. I know. I need to know that they get to still be my siblings. I want them to know that they still have me. A sister, not a stranger, not a friend, but as a sister. Thank you.
Well, Maddie Brewer, thank you so much for being on the show today. Sorry, Madison Brewer, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Good job. Alaska is in desperate need of more foster families. To learn more about becoming a foster parent, click on the Alaska Department of Family and Community Services link in the show notes. Thank you, listeners. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and review us. To contact me, email rep.andrew.gray@akinlight.gov or call my office at 907-465-4940.